Hello and welcome to National Focus. I am Malia Martin. In the headlines, government establishes produce procurement facility. Numerous projects in the pipeline for St. Joseph constituency. And Dominica observes World Indigenous Day 2023. The details of the headline stories and more when we return. Welcome back. The Ministries of Trade and Agriculture have signed a memorandum of understanding establishing Dominica's first agriculture produce procurement facility. The facility, which will operate as a revolving fund, will be managed by the Dominica Export-Import Agency, DEXIA. The $5 million initiative will ensure that DEXIA has a more structured relationship with farmers and producers, ensuring that they have paid on time for their produce. The concept of a procurement facility was first floated by Prime Minister Honorable Roosevelt Skerrit in last year's budget address.
To create what we call a revolving fund to provide DEXIA with the financial resources to allow them to actually provide payments to farmers in a timely manner, but also to ensure that there is a mechanism for actually procuring farmers' produce. We could hand over a check and call that judge and just allow DEXIA to go ahead and to purchase produce from farmers. But Ministry of Agriculture recognized that there is one additional challenge, that the coordination between the Ministries of Agriculture and Trade sometimes fall through the crack, and there isn't what you call a proper system for production to lead to the marketing. So there is a complaint by DEXIA that there is enough produce. There's a complaint by agriculture that there is not enough markets. And so both parties are standing on the trajectory in which the farmer is caught in the middle, where he is saying that he's producing and the market is saying that the production is not consistent enough to allow for the meeting of the minds to allow marketing to go through seamlessly.
Mr. Sever says what's now in place is a coordinated agricultural produce procurement system which gets all the players involved, including DEXIA, the Bureau of Standards, and the Ministry of Agriculture, ensuring that quality fresh produce are consistently available for marketing.
The signing of the agreement here is basically to establish the terms and conditions under which each party, each ministry will operate, and to ensure that the financial resources that is made available to DEXIA is actually managed, it's actually used in the manner in which we had designed it, and that we are constantly evaluating the program that we have before us, but also to monitor the market situation to ensure that farmers have a consistent, reliable market for their fresh produce.
Minister for Agriculture, Fisheries, Blue and Green Economy, Honorable Roland Royer, says this procurement facility will help resolve a long-standing problem faced by farmers over the years.
This is yet another testament that the government of Dominica is keeping on its promises. The creation of this procurement facility with startup financing of $5 million to facilitate the procurement of fresh produce is yet another milestone in our quest to increase production of fresh produce on the island. This procurement facility will regain the farmers' confidence in the marketplace as we continue to regain our market share in our traditional markets that we lost due to the passage of Hurricane Maria.
The minister explains that under this facility, DEXIA will now be able to pay farmers and producers within 2 days of procuring their produce.
The Ministry of Agriculture has articulated its target for a more significant contribution of agriculture to GDP by 2030. Working closely with the Ministry of Trade and Dexia, we are confident this facility will provide a gateway to achieve our targets.
The Ministry of Agriculture intends on reducing Dominica's importation of certain produce, including white potatoes, leafy vegetables, and onions, at least by 25% by 2025. Minister for Trade Honorable Dr. Vince Henderson says the idea has always been to create a more structured relationship between the Ministries of Trade, Dexia, and farmers.
This facility will help Dexia to eliminate that problem. So that Dexia, once we have received your produce, we will be able to pay you within 48, well, the minister said 36 hours. I saw how Paula reacted. So I say in 48 hours, minister. Hope you know vex. I don't like Paula to be vexed. So Dexia will do its best to ensure that within 48 hours, we can have payments ready. But farmers must also prepare themselves, and producers, that this is a business. This is a business. You know, let's stop treating the thing like you just come, it's a rum shop you're running, as a friend of mine would say. That you have, you know, but if in a rum shop, man, that's squiddy. You know, you go to a local shop and you get a good credit. So farmers now and producers must also be prepared to treat this thing as a business, so that 48 hours would not be onerous. That you bring your produce, and you will be paid within that time.
The development of the St. Joseph constituency in all sectors remain a priority for the Member of Parliament, Honorable Darren Lloyd. Since being elected into office, numerous projects have taken place, including the rehabilitation of the St. Joseph playing field. The project, which includes the placing of culverts in a huge drain separating the playing field and the St. Joseph Catholic Church, will increase the safety of players using the field, while addressing a long-standing drainage issue in the constituency. Honorable Lloyd says the rehabilitation of the St. Joseph playing field is in an effort to make the field a hub for sports and recreational activity in the village.
Our foremost priority remains completing the restoration works at the St. Joseph playing field, ensuring that it becomes a prime hub for sports and recreation. But not only that, Mr. Speaker, we are resolute in providing enhanced access to the basketball court in St. Joseph, Mr. Speaker. This includes both upgrading existing facilities and incorporating new ones, ensuring that our youth and sports enthusiasts can thrive in an environment conducive to honing their skills and talents. Furthermore, Mr. Speaker, I am proud to announce to this Honorable House that the final drawings and designs for the Bells and Mirror playing fields are well underway and will be completed during the course of this fiscal year.
The St. Joseph MP is grateful to have seen the completion of the first phase of the Layu rehabilitation project.
And I would like to extend my gratitude to this government for the investments that they have made in repairing the Hillsborough Bridge at a tune of in excess of $6 million, Mr. Speaker. And while I'm on my feet, I'd also like to extend my gratitude to the government of the People's Republic of China for the addition of the York Valley Bridge, Mr. Speaker. And the Honorable Grant, along with my other colleague, Honorable McIntyre, spoke in length about the continuation of such project from the York Valley Bridge to the intersection in Warner. Mr. Speaker, I can tell you that once this project is completed, this is going to be an edifice, Mr. Speaker, a sight to behold. Mr. Speaker, it's going to be a project of national importance.
Infrastructural projects will also be undertaken in the community of Bells. He reassured residents that they will be prioritized in terms of employment on these projects.
We also welcome the project of the retaining bridge in Bells, Mr. Speaker. I can say to the residents of Bells that they can rest assured that they will definitely be prioritized as far as employment opportunities go once this project is initiated, Mr. Speaker. And the same goes for the project in Layu, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Royer spoke about the Kawum Road, the continuation of the Kawum Road. Mr. Speaker, we welcome all of these projects. Mr. Speaker, I don't want to sound greedy, but we want to benefit in every single ministry, every sector of this government, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, and the people of St. Joseph can rest assured that I will continue being a sandfly to ensure that we get what we want.
Dominica joined the rest of the world in observance of World Indigenous Day on Wednesday, August 9, 2023. World Indigenous Day 2023 was celebrated under the theme, Indigenous Youth as Agents of Change for Self-Determination. It is observed on August 9 each year to raise awareness and protect the rights of the world's indigenous population. This event also recognizes the achievements and contributions that indigenous people make to improve world issues such as the environmental protection. It was first pronounced by the United Nations General Assembly in December 1994, marking the day of the first meeting of the UN Working Group on Indigenous Populations of the Subcommission on the Promotion and Protection of Human Rights in 1982. Minister for the Environment, Rural Modernization, Kalinago Upliftment and Constituency Empowerment, Honorable Kozia Frederick, says Dominica must continue to celebrate the cultural impact of the Kalinagos.
We must continue to highlight our rich Kalinago heritage here in Dominica and that of other indigenous communities around the world. We must specifically emphasize the vital role that youth play in shaping the future of our communities and the planet. It is very clear that indigenous cultures are repositories of ancient wisdom. They are all entrenched with environmental stewardship and have mastered sustainable ways of living. These have all maintained our world for generations.
He says the involvement of the youth is key if we are to preserve and maintain the Kalinago heritage and traditions.
As we acknowledge and honor our Kalinago culture, we must also recognize that it is the youth who hold the key to preserving and revitalizing these traditions for years to come. Our generation stands at a crossroads in history, where we have the opportunity and responsibility to champion the fight against climate change. The connection between indigenous knowledge and the sustainable practices is undeniable, and the youth are uniquely positioned to bridge the gap between tradition and innovation.
Minister Frederick believes that by working together and educating the public, indigenous communities can thrive for years to come.
Through education, activism, and collaboration, we can amplify our indigenous voices, ensure our rights are respected, and work towards creating a more inclusive and equitable world. By embracing the lessons of the past, we will forge a path towards a future where our indigenous community thrive, our culture flourish, and the planet is protected for generations to come. Let us remember that our actions today will determine the legacy we leave for the youth of tomorrow. As we celebrate World Indigenous Peoples Day, let us commit to being advocates for change, champions of justice, and stewards of the environment. The empowerment of youth is not just an aspiration, but a necessity. This is because it is through our passion, dedication, and collaboration that we can truly make a difference in our lives.
Meantime, government continues to honor its commitment to improving the lives of the people of the Salibia constituency. A number of initiatives are being undertaken in the Kalinago territory to ensure that the resilience of the Kalinagos is strengthened. In March 2022, government launched an over $800,000 Kalinago Development Fund with an aim to improve the social and economic circumstance of the Kalinagos.
Critical in the new financial year, we will look at continuing the Kalinago Development Fund. We'll also continue the physical construction of the emergency shelter, and we also look at the social behavior and the social change within the Salibia constituency. Mr. Speaker, I must say that the Kalinago Development Fund has developed some traction over the past year. A number of more than 25 folks have been granted loans, and they are taking on responsibilities. They are now feeling a bigger part of the Dominica society by taking own risk in their own businesses.
A number of capital projects to include the construction of an emergency shelter are in the pipeline for the constituency. This is part of government's aim to increase resilience across the island.
But we realize that the Kalinago space is cut off between the Pegua and the river and the Casablanca River. It may be difficult to access the established unit in Casablanca. So within the Kalinago space, we are doing our own shelter to ensure that we are able to secure the folks of the Salibet constituency. All of these software works have been done, as I said. We have done the surveys, we have identified the lands, we have secured the lands. All of the geological tests have been done, all of the assessments have been done, and we are moving ahead. The final designs have been done on the building, and we're progressing to do so, to have physical work done before the end of this year.
Software projects have been implemented to aid in the development of the constituency. One such project is the UNICEF Child Protection Program. The aim of this initiative is to collectively involve the community in strengthening child protection systems across the Kalinago territory. The Member of Parliament is committed to supporting families and protecting the innocence of children.
We were able to do a parenting program, and we expended a significant amount of money in that project to ensure that people across the board are able to deal with the issues of growing a family and handling incidents of children's attitude towards their own development. So we have done that. We covered community leaders consultations. We had a conversation with farmers as relates to parenting, teachers within the system. We had programs in every community across the constituency. So we're happy for this, and what we have found out, Mr. Speaker, is that we have acquired a lot of relevant information. Some things we thought were not so important. We have been able to create the data. We have learned new parenting strategies. We have formed supporting networks between hamlets.
Earlier this year, the Ministry of Kalinago Upliftment launched the Kalinago 120 initiative. The initiative focuses on sustainability, the economic development of the Kalinago territory, and building relations with other indigenous communities and organizations. You're watching National Focus. More when we return. Welcome back. The growing presence of non-communicable diseases, NCDs, continues to challenge the health security of Dominica. Government dubbed the year 2022 as the Year for Health and Wellness, and since effort has been made to emphasize on the importance of maintaining a healthy lifestyle, with Prime Minister Honorable Roosevelt Skerrit on the forefront of advocating against NCDs. Parliamentary Secretary in the Ministry of Health, Wellness and Social Services, with particular responsibility for community and home care, Honorable Kent Edwards, says the ministry will continue to educate the public on the effects of NCDs.
We know for a fact that the world is now being confronted by a pandemic of NCDs. NCDs is not only an issue in the Caribbean or Dominica, it's an issue worldwide. And the problem, or should I say, the slight difficulty with NCDs, they are lifestyle diseases. So it is not easy to impose restrictions on people's lifestyles. So it will always be a little more difficult to fight NCDs. You can only do it with education, with motivation, and to be at people's head and pounding them with a bliss of information over and over.
According to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, NCDs such as heart disease, cancer, chronic respiratory disease, and diabetes are the leading cause of death worldwide and represents an emerging global health threat. Deaths from NCDs now exceed all communicable disease deaths combined.
People control themselves, and you could come to the health centers, you could access all the hospital that is available to you, all the health centers, all the healthcare professionals. But at the end of the day, it's the individual themselves that to go back home and to do what was said to them to do. And we recognize that. Hence, a coordinator for NCDs was hired last year with the sole purpose of fighting this pandemic, because we recognize at the ministry level that it is a problem. We are not shy away from that. That's a fact. We know it's a problem. That is why a coordinator, Dr. Andy Sentile, was hired last year, and his job is to work in the districts, work with the health districts, work with the director of primary health care and the primary health care department to go out and sell the information.
The fight against NCDs requires a joint effort. The Ministry of Health implores the public to take action, as prevention is better than cure. Education for all has always been one of the priority areas of focus for government. Investments have been made to provide students with the best possible start in life and to take advantage of all opportunities for their advancement. To achieve this goal of universal education, government is dedicated to improving accessibility to early childhood education. Dominica is currently one of 4 OECS member states benefiting from funding for sectoral development under the Program for Educational Advancement and Relevant Learning OECS Pearl project. This project consists of 4 major pillars to include curriculum reform, early childhood education, special education needs, and leadership and management.
Approximately 575 females and 603 males are enrolled at 87 early childhood centers all over Dominica. The thrust to increase access to early childhood education continues with the upgrading of the pre-kindergarten classroom at Dalis, Monjon, and Grand Bay Primary. New pre-kindergartens have been established at the new W.S. Stevens and Maho Primary Schools. Under the OECS Pearl project, the Caleb Laura, Batcatel, Jones Bopier, Salibia, and Cassie Bruce Primary Schools early childhood facility will be upgraded at a total of $468,000.
Government's aim to expand universal education is further complemented by plans to refurbish some dedicated spaces for early childhood education. Early childhood education facilities are also part of the designs for the soon constructed primary schools in Tibu and Kalibichi.
An early childhood facility is being constructed at the Baroness Patricia Scotland Primary School, funded by the Maria Holder Memorial Trust. To better serve students, 30 early childhood educators completed a 2-year training program with the University of the West Indies. Mr. Speaker, in preparation for finalizing the existing draft of the early childhood policy and developing standards for regulating the early childhood sector, a diagnostic review of the sector was conducted, and the final drafts of the policy and standards are being reviewed for feedback by various stakeholders. The development of the policy and standard is being funded by UNICEF.
Government has invested heavily over the years in a bid to build a resilient water sector. The country's water system and supply was heavily impacted by the passage of Hurricane Maria and other similar weather events in recent years. Minister of State in the Ministry of Public Works, Public Utilities and Digital Economy, with specific responsibility for public utilities, Honorable Shikira Lockett Hippolyte, says government remains committed to bringing quality pipe-borne water to all consumers with the implementation of 4 major projects. One of them is the Water Sector Strategic Development Project.
Our government is committed to bringing quality pipe-borne water and more resilient water supply to homes in Dominica. As a result, we have embarked on 4 projects. The Water Sector Strategic Development Project. This involves the replacement of damaged infrastructure to include river intakes and supply pipelines, water treatment plant, and storage tanks. All the necessary designs are completed. The project was open to tender, but the bids received were too high. In light of this, the intervention was redesigned, which would allow for the engagement of more local contractors.
Upon completion, numerous communities will benefit from this project as it will address their water supply issues.
The areas that will benefit greatly from this project are as follows. Cassie Bruce, and I know the parliament representative there have been calling me because they have a lot of issues with their water supply. Kalibichi, Monjon, Riviere Syric, and Granford, while the second phase to be considered are Roseau Valley, west coast of Salisbury to Coolibishri, and sewerage facility for Jimit. These interventions will provide direct employment for at least 200 residents during construction. Funds are provided by the government of Dominica from the UK development funds.
The development of Dominica's agro-processing capabilities is a critical aspect to the Ministry of Agriculture's goal of contributing $700 million to the annual GDP by 2030. Parliamentary Secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture with responsibility for the development of community agro-enterprises, Honorable Akia Joseph, says there is a need to develop and sustain the food security supply. This is because the external and internal factors that pose challenges to the country's food production requires a different approach as government tries to achieve even greater food security. One of these approaches is the development of agro-processing and agro-entrepreneurship.
Agro-processing, agripreneurship, value addition. It is within this context, Mr. Speaker, that this budget provides allocation for increased food production with 3 clear market-driven outlets in mind: food for local consumption, food for regional and international exports, and food as raw materials for value addition or agro-processing. Mr. Speaker, our ability to achieve the goals of a well-developed and defined agricultural sector, inclusive of agro-processing, depend on the efficient use of all food resources produced and a clear strategy to develop the capacity of entrepreneurs and agro-processors to transform these food products into innovative and sustainable finished products that are market-ready.
The development of the agro-processing sector will aid government in reducing the country's food import bill, which currently stands at about $126 million.
We have in this budget allocated just over $56 million to rectify this constraint by over 25% before 2025. And the reality is, Mr. Speaker, we have the ability and opportunity to produce all of the above-mentioned products and so much more, as the extent of the local market for food commodities provide just a glimpse of the golden gateway available to our cottage industries and commercial entrepreneurs, in addition to the avenue for development of the agro-processing sector to increase value-added output for regional trade expansion.
Government, through the Ministry of Agriculture, is working towards developing agro-processors and entrepreneurs by providing them with the support they need to contribute to the sector.
We at the Ministry of Agriculture are on a mission to locating and developing a cadre of entrepreneurs who can and are currently adding value to our agricultural produce to develop enriched, flavored and packaged foods, beauty supplies and skincare products, medical alternatives, and other agro-processed goods. Mr. Speaker, a government without a mission is a government lost. So here are the components involved in achieving this mission, and I will list them briefly. A comprehensive needs assessment, which has already begun, capacity building, availability of and access to finance, infrastructural development, market research and development, regulatory support, monitoring and evaluation, networking and collaboration, and lastly, continued cooperation and support.
And that's all for this edition of National Focus. Be sure to follow GIS Dominica on Facebook, YouTube, and on Twitter. You can also drop us an email at gis@dominica.gov.dm. From all of us here on the GIS News Production team, I am Aaliyah Martin. Thank you for watching.